Yo, what's up everyone? I hope you're having an awesome day. Welcome to the Nova Devs channel. I'm Lenny, but you can call me Nova, and in today's tutorial I will show you how to create player movement in Unity. First things first, make sure you have a project. For the newer developers coming in, you're probably going to most likely have a blank slate in the Unity hub, in the projects. Just go to new project, change the editor version to whichever one you like. Personally, I prefer to stay up to date, so I use 6.3. That is what I'm using for all my projects, including my indie game project, Soulclef, which I'm currently still developing and working on. And now, in this section, you can type in your project name and the location, and once you have done that, you can go to Create Project. So now that we have that done, I want you to move on to the Edit. You're going to go to Project Settings, and you're going to click on Player and scroll all the way down to Active Input Handling. Find that. You're going to change this to be both so that you have access to both the Input Manager and the new system package. Alright, and we're going to move on to the player script. So I made my own player movement script. Just go along and do that as well. And also, as you saw earlier, I have my own sprite assets in here. You can actually download yourself. It's free. Let me just clarify that it is free. This is all free. So you can go on to my Unity Asset Store page. It's called Nova Dynamics Starboy Sprite Assets. It has over 25 animations that I've worked on in Procreate, and just wanted to put out there for others to have something cool in their projects to kind of start off with. Alright, so now that we've gotten that out the way, I'm going to move on to... Alright, now that you've opened your player movement script, we're going to need a few variables. So we're going to do public float move speed, public float jump speed. We're going to do private rigid body 2D. And we're going to serialize that. Serialize field. Then private transform ground check, and just make sure you put serialized field for that. Oh. Alright, and we're gonna call this ground check object. And the next thing, we're gonna serialize field, private float ground check radius, another serialized field. Then we're going to do private layer mask ground layer. And then we're going to do public bool is grounded. All right. So once you have these variables, you're going to want to check for the player input. And we're going to need to add another one. So we're going to call this private vector to move direction. All right. So we're going to take away the start method. We don't need that. We're going to add the fixed update method, because that is where we're going to use and put our scripts meant for editing our player physics. So we're going to do move direction dot x equals input dot get axis, and this is the reason why I wanted you to put both for the active input handling, so that you are able to do this. So we're going to do horizontal times our move speed. Then we're going to do rb dot add force, because this is going to add the force and apply it to our player in the horizontal direction when we press down on our key. And then we need to halt our speed so that our player doesn't zip off the screen. So let's do a speed limit control. And we're going to check if, make a little if statement. I'm going to say math dot absolute, because we want to check the absolute value. So when your x is greater than 0f, that is the case, we need to create some friction. So I'm going to create a custom method, a custom variable, and call it continued movement, and that is going to equal the direction that we are pressing in times our speed. So move X times move speed. Alright, now that we have that, we are going to apply body linear velocity equals new vector 2 continued movement, and we're just going to have our linear velocity just remain the same. Now this isn't going to do anything yet, it's just only going to have this value, but we need to make it so that our speed is constantly being subtracted. So we're going to that's about it. Alright, so that's a decent amount, a very small value. Alright, so we need to check for ground. Check for ground, and we're going to do that by calling on is grounded here, and we're going to set it to be physics 2D dot circle overlap circle right here, and this is going to take in some values. So we need to have the point where it starts and the radius. So our starting point is going to be our ground check object. We're going to say dot position. The radius is going to be our ground check radius, and then our layer is going to be our layer map. Alright, now we need to check if we are grounded. So this is how we're going to use it. So we're going to say if we are grounded, and input dot get, I'm going to say key, I'm going to say space, do key code dot space. Alright, and if that's the case, we're going to do rb dot add force. We're going to do new vector 2. Alright, we're going to use our direction dot x. We're going to put our jump speed right here. And actually, instead of that, we're going to put X. Alright. So when the player is rounded, and if we press the space key, it's going to propel our player into the air. And let's check that. I'm going to put, I'll put 1,000. Let's put 200 just to see. Alright, as you guys can see, the player is now moving left, moving right, and can jump. Thank you guys for watching so much, and congrats, you now have a moving player that you can actually put to use in your game. If you found this tutorial helpful or useful, please be sure to leave a comment, tell me what helped, and also if you want more in the future. So yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and thank you so much for tuning in. You guys have an awesome day, night, or afternoon. Alright, take care.